Now we are going to talk about categories of trademarks. Let's start with McCarthy's 4 categories, which is also discussed in Roger Schei's paper, describing further with examples. So the 4 categories contain generic, descriptive, suggestive, and arbitrary or fanciful. Let's find out what they are. Suppose you see all these products. For example, these are soaps. We can call this soap, okay? The so-called generic. And the soap, very fragrant. Then if we call it a fragrant soap, that's descriptive. Then we may also want to be suggestive. We can call it Bathsheba. Bathsheba. Who is Bathsheba?
She was someone who was taking a bath in the Bible.
Yes. So by taking a bath using soap, then she became very attractive. So that's suggestive. Or soaps. We want to make it arbitrary. Call it banana. Banana. Banana is fragrant. Banana is yellow. So maybe, this yellow soap has a connection with banana. That's totally arbitrary.
Okay.
Or fanciful. In other words, in our language, there's no such a word. We want to coin a new name for this product.
Okay.
So, for example, cola or gala. We call it gala.
Okay.
It's not a name in Chinese. Okay. So these are the 5 different types of trademarks, categories. So let's do a test. Now focus on these 5 products. I would like you to match those products, examples on the right-hand side, with the mark types on the left-hand side. Voila! Let's look at the results. Now, can you describe why cola is generic?
Cola is generic because any type of cola, Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola, any type of cola in general is called a cola.
It's like soda or cola. Just call this product cola or soda. It's generic. It refers to this type of drink.
This classic
drink, yes. How about tasty bread? Why is it descriptive?
Well, you hope that your bread is tasty, otherwise, why would you eat it?
Yes, call it tasty is too descriptive. You cannot name it as a product.
But some of the early products, many, many years ago, seem to have that sort of descriptive name, which you couldn't use now because there are too many products that could say that.
Exactly.
But the first one on the market 100 years ago could have become known by that name and therefore trademark that name.
But now, a descriptive term is too common, too competitive, right? So it's not registrable. How about greyhound? Why is it suggestive? What does it suggest?
Well, a greyhound runs very fast, and so it suggests that this greyhound bus is a very fast way of getting from one city to another.
Next, how about Apple? The Apple product. Apple computer.
That's
Why?
like your banana, right?
Yes. Why is it arbitrary?
Because it's a name that's known, but it has absolutely no association with soap or computers.
Exactly. How about the very last one? Kodak. Why is it fanciful?
Well, because it was made up to sound good. It wasn't a name of anything that was known before that.
Mhm. Kodak is not even an English word to begin with. So it's a coined new word. So these are the answers. Did you do it right? Now, next, let's focus on registrability. Among all these 5 categories, we put fanciful and arbitrary together as one category. These names are most registrable because they are using your imagination. They are totally unguessable.
Mhm.
So they are registrable. Suggestive is okay. Sometimes the association is too close, but if it's metaphoric, it requires a little more imagination. That's better. Descriptive, generic, no, they are not registrable. But sometimes some names, after being used for a long time, they become generic. How about some tissue? Kleenex.
Mhm.
Kleenex can become very generic. So in the future, Kleenex refers to tissue. How about Xerox? Xerox is
Photocopy.
photocopy.
Even
So-
though they make lots of other products, that's what we associate it with.
Exactly. So some trademarks can be used so commonly they become generic. Now, let's look at generic names, which are characteristic of an entire group or a class of things. They cannot be trademarked. We already mentioned cola, soda, computer, or soap.
Sure.
How about some iGEM examples?
Well, there was one team that was making an adhesive bandage for putting over a wound. You couldn't call it an adhesive bandage and trademark that because there are many adhesive bandages.
So, like I said, some terms have been used so commonly they become generic, like aspirin, right? Or Tylenol, and so on. So, we also mentioned descriptive names. They convey information about the product directly, like tasty bread, gold medal flour, and so on. How about some iGEM examples?
Well, there was one iGEM team that developed a rapid test kit, and you could consider that, well, it's not really generic, I guess. It is descriptive because
It's rapid.
it's rapid and it is a test kit. So it describes exactly what this object is.
Right. So a description of how good, how rapid it is. It's not registrable.
Right, because there are many types of things that could be rapid test kits.
The third category, suggestive names, which require imagination to connect product and name. The form and the meaning, it requires some metaphoric extension. So, for example, Greyhound, we already mentioned Greyhound bus.
Most of the iGEM products have been suggestive. We'll talk more about those in the last video in this unit.
So, how do we know something is suggestive? How suggestive? Whether it requires a lot of imagination, then that's very suggestive. Or many people can think about it, then that's competitors' need. They all need this kind of a suggestive name, then that's no longer registrable. Or they are all using the name, or they think about the same, or they can check from the dictionary, they find the same thing, then that's not registrable, even though it requires some imagination. Talking about imagination, we already said descriptive terms have no imagination, require no imagination. But suggestive names require imagination to connect the name and the product. And we said, if something is suggestive, we also need to look at how many people are finding this name very useful and like to adopt this name. So example, you already mentioned, rapid test kit.
Right, anybody that's creating a test kit is going to call it that.
Right,
They need to use that, and therefore you can't say, it's mine, you can't use it.
right. So too many competitors have the same need to adopt this name. And how about competitors' use?
Well, if somebody is already using that name, again, like Rapid Test Kit, then you can't say, I'm going to take this away from you.
Right. So, for example, McDonald's, right? McDonald's are well established. And even though you feel Mc, originally that means son, S-O-N, son. And it refers to Scottish or Irish businessman.
Right,
Son
the
of
son
Donald.
of Donald.
Yes. But now McDonald's somehow is associated with McDonald's.
Right.
What's McDonald's?
A hamburger chain. Obviously.
Exactly.
So 100 years ago, Mr. McDonald could have formed his own hamburger stand and said, these are McDonald's hamburgers, and it would have been fine. But now Mr. McDonald would have to give it a different name.
Right. We also need to think about whether the name is arbitrary. Of course, some arbitrary name may not be that good, just like if I call this banana. But why is Apple a good arbitrary name for computers?
I don't know, maybe an apple a day keeps the doctor away?
Yeah, that's some kind of positive association. And how about fanciful names? We have to be very careful when it comes to new terms. We coin a new term. So when we name our son or daughter, there's a Chinese tradition. We usually have to go out of the house and shout this name 3 times, XYZ, 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 3 times. Then if there's no negative association or no funny sound, then we can say this is a good name. So do you have some examples of fanciful names?
Well, in America before, one of the camera companies called themselves Polaroid. And now that has become a common term for any rapidly developed photograph. Pocari is another one, that Pocari Sweat. The company came up with this name, just something that they thought sounded good and was different from anything else.
But all these fanciful names, which were coined as a new term, may become generic, like Google. What does Google mean?
You Google it.
You Google it.
Right, so it's become, you search and it's become just a common name for a search.
Why is escalator generic?
Well, Escalator originally was the name of a brand of moving stairway, but then it was the only one, and so people came to call it an escalator, even though it was originally a brand name.
So it's like Xerox.
Right.
How about Frisbee?
Frisbee was the original flying disc, and again, it was originally an arbitrary name, fanciful name. But it was the only one for many years, and people just started calling a flying disc a Frisbee. So in the next video, we'll look at, these are basic principles. It seems like there are 4 distinct categories, and it should be fairly easy to distinguish them, but sometimes it's not. So we'll look at that next.